Greetings, friends, and welcome to Retro Unscripted. My name is Peter, and this is episode 19. I thank you very much for watching and for joining me once again today. Today's episode is about one of my favorite kinds of video game slash entertainment, and that would be pinball. If you follow me on Twitter on my personal Pete Scarrett account, those of you who have followed me for a while know that pinball games and I have quite the friendship going on. Um, Pinball games are among my favorite to play because I do pretty well in them. I'm not the best first person shooter player. I'm not the best role playing game player. Twitch games I'm not as good at as I once was. My reflexes as I near age 42 aren't quite what they used to be. So pinball games have treated me the best over the years, and granted, and likewise, I've been able to maintain my skill level in them over the years. In fact, I've gotten better since I first started playing. It all began, innocently enough, in Norwich, Connecticut in 1980. I went to a bowling alley. It was a duckpin bowling alley. If you don't know what duckpin bowling is, think about candlepin bowling, but instead of the thin pins like this, the pins look more like super deformed 10 pins. They're smaller and wider, but you use candlepin balls to knock them down. It's a fascinating variation of the sport, and it's one of the most difficult variations to play. But getting back to pinball for a minute, I used to go to this bowling alley because there were arcade games there, and as an 8-year-old, this is what I wanted to spend my money on. Games like Berserk that always detected the coins I had in my pocket, even if I didn't have them. Games like Wizard of War, games like Vanguard. These were games that always kept my attention and competed for what little money I had. Being the oldest in a single parent household, I only had a few quarters at once to be able to spend, so I had to choose wisely. But Gorgar was the first pinball game that I ever played, and the reason that I was so interested was because the game talked to you and kind of yelled at you a little bit, put you in your place, intimidated you. And that was something as an 8-year-old that I found very interesting. So I would get the little crate to stand on, and I put my quarter in, and I launched the ball, and probably about 30 to 35 seconds after I launched, the ball was already down the hole. And this went on for the two balls that preceded, and I think I wound up with something like 30,000 points or something meager like that. Um, but I didn't get frustrated by it. I put another quarter in and I played, and I got a little better. Never really got good because I didn't have very good flipper skill. I was kind of just randomly tapping instead of understanding placement of the ball in the flipper and where I should be shooting and stuff like that. It was still a little bit beyond me at that age. But that was the first pinball game, and from there, I would graduate to mall arcades in my teens, play games like High Speed, like Pinbot, like Comet, like F-14 Tomcat. Games like those that, with bells and whistles and speech and sound and multi-ball and all these other bells and whistles, really kept my attention. And perhaps the best part of pinball games, being a kid that didn't have a lot of money, is there was the promise of free games if you were able to score enough points. So if you were on a big heater or really in the zone, you could rack up free games and play on one or two quarters for a good hour, depending on your skill level and the kind of success you were having with the ball on that day. I remember one day in a mall arcade playing High Speed. I was playing against another adult. The hideout jackpot was 2 million points, and I wound up hitting that. I wound up getting the highest score on the machine while the guy was just kind of looking at me and wondering whether, to pull a quote from the wizard, I was some kind of cyborg. And I wound up playing High Speed for a good hour. I only paid one quarter to play, and it wound up kind of growing into a full hour of gameplay, and I loved that. As a matter of fact, that same afternoon, I wound up having the first and the third place positions on that particular scoreboard, so I thought that was pretty neat. I was a kid of 15 at the time, so I thought I was doing okay. And since then, pinball games and I, when I see a pinball game out and about, whether I'm at a local casino or whether I'm at an arcade. I'm always going to give it some quarters or tokens and give it an opportunity to play. But the thing that I'm most grateful for is that the pinball experience isn't just reserved for arcades or pizzerias or wherever the pinball machines are located. Um, Thanks to companies like Zen Studios and Farsight Studios, these days, pinball in video game form is more prolific than it's ever been. Farsight Studios, of course, the creators of the Pinball Hall of Fame series, as well as the Pinball Arcade series. They do a fantastic job of taking pinball machines that I played in my youth and bringing them to life. It's great that they've licensed these machines from Gottlieb and from Williams and other sources, and really kind of let me live out my childhood in a less limited fashion. Having the disc or the digital download means no more quarters. I can play these games as often as I want and be concerned only with scoring as many points as possible and then proceeding to brag about it to whatever friends I can find. That opposed to paying a quarter or two and then being concerned that once my ball drains or my game is over that the quarter is gone. I have something tangible now with these games that I can continue to go back and to play and to improve and to get better scores. And I think that that's fantastic. Zen Studios, of course, on the flip side, they do a fantastic job with taking familiar pop culture licenses and turning them into original pinball tables. If you've not played the Pinball FX or FX2 series on the Xbox 360, or the Zen Pinball series for the PlayStation 3 or now the PC or mobile devices, you owe it to yourself to do so if you like pinball games at all. Zen Pinball tends to approach, or Zen Studios tends to approach pinball a bit differently, in that it's not like arcades where the whole idea was to continue to get you putting quarters into the machine because your games don't last long. Zen Studios' model rewards skill and doesn't try and get the ball to sink as often as possible. Instead, with a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of understanding of ball physics and flipper timing, you can play for a long time and accumulate millions and even billions of points. And I love that aspect of it. It takes pinball from being kind of punitive and something that's got a very targeted audience. It's very difficult to get into, which is fine for pinball purists, and making it more enjoyable for more people by being more inviting and not having that punishing difficulty that some tables have, especially some licensed tables have. One example is the Star Trek Next Generation table that's available for Pinball Arcade. Now, I love that table. I loved it in the arcade. I love it now. But a big problem with that particular table is that there are issues with the ball physics for whatever reason, and it was like this in arcades too, where the ball was attracted to the outlanes a lot. So you kind of got nervous as your ball made its way down if it wasn't going anywhere near the center, if it was going down towards either the left or the right side, that you're probably going to lose the ball. And that happens a lot in the Pinball Arcade version. It's punitive. You have to be in the zone. You have to have a really good run to be able to accumulate a lot of points. Sometimes things just have to break your way. There's a lot of luck involved. But in the Zen Studios pinball games, it's more skill. As long as you know what you're doing, you have a feel for what you're doing, you understand how to attack a particular table, you can do very well. And it's very easy to be able to pick up and play those games. So there's an audience for each of those, and I think that that's fantastic. Again, I know that they're more modern than retro, although the pinball arcade games are from pinball machines of the past. But I do give both companies, both applications, very, very strong recommendations. If you don't have any of these digital franchises, digital games, I do recommend that you add them to your libraries when you can, if you get some extra money. But even back in the late 80s and early 90s, there were pinball games that were available on the Nintendo Entertainment System. I had a chance to cover these for One More Castle in a very brief series that I put together called Pinball Alley, where I broke down the NES pinball games, Pinball, Pinbot, High Speed, Rockin' Ball, Rollerball. I broke all of those down and talked about specific strategies and such for each table. I'm not going to redo that here for Retro Unscripted. Um, if there's interest, if you guys are interested in seeing my work, I can leave some links below so you guys can check that stuff out. But obviously, Pinball Games and I have a really great relationship, and they're as fun to play now as they were back then. They test your eye-hand coordination. Sometimes they test your patience, but they can be very rewarding in the end. And it's always fun to put up a great score and tell a friend or colleague, beat that. So check it out if you can. The NES pinball games are still fairly inexpensive, ranging from just a couple of dollars from the black box pinball all the way up to $5 or $6 or so that I've seen for Pinbot and High Speed, which are licensed tables. As for the Pinball Hall of Fame games, I wound up getting Pinball Hall of Fame on the PS2 recently for $6 complete. The versions for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 are a little bit pricier, although they've come down in recent months. I believe you can find them used for about $20 or so now. And then as far as Zen Pinball or Zen Studios Pinball games and Pinball Arcade, they range anywhere from $3 to $5 usually per table or per set of tables. Very convenient to play, and both platforms, the Zen Pinball / Pinball FX and also Pinball Arcade, depending on the versions you get, usually start you off with a pinball machine or 2 or 3 to be able to kind of get you going, and then you can add tables as you go. For my iPhone, I just got an iPhone 5S, by the way, which is great. But for my iPhone, I have 32 tables for Pinball Arcade, so I have plenty of pinball action on the go, even if my hands get a little cramped. So that's my look at pinball. I hope you guys enjoyed this. As always, I'm very grateful to the subscribers to the YouTube channel, for all of you for watching, for all of the feedback, for all of the shares. It means a lot. I have fun putting these videos together, even if they are in a dimly lit room, kind of like an arcade, I guess. It's just me and a webcam and talking to you guys, and I really wouldn't have it any other way. Until the next time, friends, I hope that you guys have a great time playing whatever games you're playing, and I will see you on the next episode of Retro Unscripted. Take care.